CJ here. Rolling solo today. D could make the screener. Things happen, life happens, but it's whatever. So I'm here to talk about Ava Duvernay's Wrinkle in Time. Uh, this movie just came out. I believe stars Stormy Reed, Oprah Winfrey, Mindy Kaling, uh, Reese Witherspoon, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Chris Pine, Levi Miller, Zach Galifianakis. Um, so at the outset, uh, you might think on the front end of this movie that it's, I guess you could say on the front end, you might think it might be like the Luc Besson Valerian movie, where it's just all visuals and everything else is shit. Far from it. In fact, unlike Luc Besson's movie, this movie in particular, great visuals, good story, good characters that you care about. So it works. The overall product, the overall story that they're trying to telling, it all comes together pretty well. Has some negatives, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I'm saying all that to say that, it took me a minute to really kind of realize that as I'm watching the movie and stuff. Because I'm watching the movie, and most movies that like I watch, I get engaged and stuff. And it's not to say this movie wasn't engaging. I think that, just to kind of real quick on the negatives before I, swing back to my point that I'm making. The pacing goes by so quick that you don't get a chance to really kind of like enjoy what story that you're getting and stuff before everything gets whisked off real quick. But that's besides the point. Um, so the movie, when you look at it on the front end and stuff, you might think, oh, it's very just girl centric and such, which I mean, to be fair for the movie and stuff, it is. You have a little black girl front and center of this movie, and I think that's a good thing. Black girls don't necessarily get that representation in movies, and to see that front and center is actually pretty cool. See a black girl front and center, kind of the focus of the movie is actually pretty cool. Again, don't get that, but some people might sit there and get their life out of it. I mean, we just saw Black Panther just come out, and it made the money that it made, and that a lot of that came from the fact that for so many years, that representation of seeing black heroes on that level is rare to get that front and center of attention. So we just saw Black Panther is about to cross 1 billion this weekend and stuff. You see the fact that it's just a hunger for representation. So when you look at A Wrinkle in Time, whether it's the trailers or looking at the posters and stuff, and you see this black girl on it and stuff, I think this is going to be one of those movies that is going to definitely appeal to particularly a lot of black girls to see that representation and then them really getting their life out of it and stuff. And like I said, again, I think that's a beautiful thing. Past that, though, it's not necessarily just strictly a girls' movie. You can any kid is going to sit there and watch this movie and be engaged by it. And even whether it's the visuals or whether it's the story or whether they can relate to the kids' characters and stuff. Because that's the best thing about this movie and stuff is particularly the kids. You actually, I think a lot of kids can relate to these characters and what they're going through and things like that. And particularly, Storm's character, Reed. Why I say Reed? Meg. Typical kid, she's going through stuff, got bullies and stuff. She's having self-doubt about herself, even though she is a very smart person and stuff, into science and all that stuff. Chris Pine's her dad. Chris Pine teaches all these things and such. Smart kid, bright and all that stuff, but like I said, she has a lot of self-doubt and such, and that's kind of one of the things in the movie is the whole thing of believing in yourself, love, whether it's love for others or love for yourself, and things of that nature. And over the course of the movie, Meg as a character, she starts growing and stuff like that. And there are points where it feels like every single time she goes through some stuff, like everybody's quick to remind her, hey, you're a very smart, intelligent person and stuff. You just believe in yourself, and again, we've seen this in movies before. This isn't just A Wrinkle in Time isn't necessarily breaking new molds and telling these kind of stories, but that's not a bad thing either. There's nothing wrong with that. It's something that again, we don't necessarily get in a lot of movies nowadays and such. So that's a good thing to see. But like I said, it's just we see her character kind of grow over the course of the movie and such. So everything about the movie leans heavily on the kids. What about the adults? Well, if you're a parent or you're just a grown adult that might like Ava DuVernay and you thinking that this movie and I guess I could say this. I'm a fan of Ava DuVernay, so I was kind of interested in this movie. I watched a lot of her stuff, whether it's 13 or whether it's Selma or whether it's Queen Sugar. I watch her material because she's a very good director and she has kind of like a eye for really putting out great material and such. Hasn't done anything wrong at this point. Kind of like Coogler and stuff. They're both people that put out some good quality stuff, and you know, and they're just on a roll. They're on a hot streak. So, um, so you get this movie, and you're kind of sitting up there like, okay, this is very kid focused again. There's not much there for adults to really kind of sink their teeth in and such. And again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing per se. But I know some adults might sit there and either A, be bored by it, or B, be like me, where you come out the movie like, oh, it's actually pretty good. But you're not necessarily like, oh man, this, because again, for me, as a grown adult, I'm watching the movie and I'm enjoying it and stuff. I'm enjoying the visuals. I'm enjoying the story that they're telling and such, and and all everything that comes along with it and such. But one thing I noticed is that I wasn't necessarily like grabbed by it per se and stuff. As much as I could sit there and there are certain things that Meg went through that I can sit there and say, hey, you know what? I remember being a kid and having to deal with that stuff, the self-doubt and all that stuff. I remember that and stuff. But there might be some adults that just like they're not going to really empathize with that. And I think that could be a gift and a curse when it comes to this movie and such. Like I said, some adults might go into it thinking, oh, I don't know if this is going to appeal to me. And I mean, if you want a good example of it, like I know they're a different movie entirely, like the Lego movies and stuff. Particularly, I remember when D went to go see Lego Ninjago with his kids, and he was telling me that it had a lot of stuff that was for adults, humor-wise and stuff, and there was stuff for kids, and both kids and adults can enjoy it. Now, it's not to say that kids and adults can't enjoy A Wrinkle in Time, but I think there might be that split where some adults might be like, I don't know, and kids are going to probably eat it up and enjoy it, like I said, in different aspects. Like I said, again, whether it's the characters or whether it's the visuals and things like that, or and they're gonna grab onto something and enjoy the movie for what it is. So that's my 2 cents on it, at least for right now, on that aspect of it stuff. I think if you look at the reviews and just look at how people overall reacting, there is that kind of disparity of like, I don't know how to feel and things like that. Just to say it outright, the movie's good. It's not bad. It is a good movie. That's not no hyperbole. That's not like me kissing his ass. It's actually a good movie, period. And it either appeals to you or you don't. But even if it doesn't appeal to you, that doesn't necessarily mean that the movie is bad. It just means, hey, it didn't appeal to you, and that's the end of the story. And I think some people tend to not see that or understand that, but that's another conversation for another day. So, negatives. It's really a twofer thing in bit, but it kind of ties into this negative thing. So the movie's an hour and 45 minutes. And it's a twofold thing where I get why it's an hour and 45 minutes, because you're appealing to kids, so you kind of don't want to linger on a lot of things, because Chris Pine and Gugu, they play the husband and wife scientists, and they do touch on a lot of scientific aspects, but they don't lean heavily in it and stuff. It's just very basic, bare bones scientific stuff, But they don't lean heavily into it. It ain't like Interstellar where it's like, oh man, it's a lot of scientific stuff. No, they don't lean heavily into it. It's just theories and ideas, and that's where it stops. It's they don't go heavily into it. They kind of go more in the fantastical than the actual scientists of it and stuff. Which is a shame. It would have been nice to see them kind of expand on it, which, like I said, goes to the fact that this movie's an hour and 45 minutes. Give it an extra 15-20 minutes or so, it would have got an opportunity to really kind of flesh out the characters. Flesh out Mrs. Witch, Mrs. What's-It, and Mrs. Who. Those characters and such. And the hour 45, it also affects the pacing of the movie. Because, let me tell you, the beginning of the movie, it goes by quick, and when it goes by quick, it's for the sake of just like, okay, we got to get these kids on this journey now. And you don't get enough time to really flesh out the day-to-day ongoings of Meg and such. So it's like, and it also at the same time, it doesn't give you time to be like, okay, well, how does Charles know about Mrs. Which, Mrs. What's It, and Mrs. Who like that, because he's at the outset like, oh, that's Mrs. What's It when she pops in through the door at the beginning of the movie and stuff, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? Like, Mrs. What's It just popped up out of nowhere, and Charles knows her, and it's like, I'd like to know how the hell this kid knows it, because again, Charles is probably the MVP of this movie. He's a funny character, kind of reminds me of Franklin from My Wife and Kid a bit, so um, but you don't get enough time to really kind of like, okay, everything is just quick in there to really get to the point of like getting on these kids on this journey. And then once you get the kids on the journey, then it's like the movie over time starts finally getting good on the pacing and stuff. But that beginning part of the movie, the pacing is just, shit just goes quick for no damn reason and such. Like I said, give the movie another 20 minutes, maybe 25, and you would have fleshed out a little bit more. At least in my book, I don't think it's a huge negative, but it's kind of one of those things where with what you get for this hour 45, it services the story and it's able to work. Despite those little handicaps, it makes it work. Just as Al said, I'm giving it 8 out of 10, so bear with me on this. So it's not necessarily a bad thing on that. It's just, like I said, could flesh it out a little bit. We'll see. Gets a sequel. I'm pretty sure it'll probably get a sequel and stuff. But it was funny. Like me and you look at the movie, and like I said, unlike Valerians, you actually give a shit about the characters. You care about the kids and what they're going through. At one point, Meg, at the beginning of the movie, she's getting bullied by one of her schoolmates. We find out is her next door neighbor, and you find out why that character is a bully and stuff. You start understanding why Calvin acts the way he acts and such. We get a little bit into his home life. It's a bit of it's an exposition kind of scene and stuff, but you get a little bit of a general idea of like these characters' background and what makes them tick and why they act the way they act and stuff. Because Calvin, as a character, he clearly loves Meg. You see that at the beginning and stuff when he pops up at her house, and like I said, it's hey, it's a love story that you can actually buy into and such. But beyond that though and stuff, Oprah as Mrs. Witch, she's, at least in my eyes, she's Oprah. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just Oprah being Oprah. It's kind of like how we say that Denzel acts like Denzel in every movie. It's like, oh, this Oprah being Oprah and stuff. She does a good job being this like kind of like almighty, person and stuff like that. Which like I said, it works. Oprah is a very larger than life person in real life. So Mrs. Witch works for that. Reese Witherspoon and Mindy Kaling, wow, kind of steal the movie a bit and stuff. I like their characters and stuff, particularly Mindy. She plays Mrs. Who, and she's basically kind of throwing out like a lot of quotes and stuff from different people and stuff, whether it's rappers or just people in real life and stuff, and I thought that was actually pretty cool. Reese steals it as Mrs. What's It because she's just very out there, larger than life, and just says a lot of stuff out there. And then, like I said, it's one of those kind of like, it's pretty funny and stuff. Like I said, Gugu and Chris, they play a husband-wife scientist. They're competent. It's nothing crazy special, but they make it work for their characters and stuff. Nothing bad I can really say about them. Like I said, I think the kid's name is Derek McCabe. He plays Charles, and he's the MVP of this group. Like I said, he just precocious, says a lot of funny stuff. At one point in the beginning, the adults are talking about him, and he happens to be overhearing it, and he just calls the adults out on it and stuff. And it's a funny scene. It's just like, okay, that was actually pretty funny. But yeah, I think when you look at this movie overall, it's a very ambitious product. I think it works. I'm not familiar with the book entirely, so I know a lot of people can probably pick out differences in the books and stuff. I know one thing in particular. I believe the family in the book is a white family, and in this movie they basically made them a multiracial family and stuff. Just interracial. Gugu and Chris got an interracial relationship, kids. It's a very multicultural family and stuff. So they changed that up, but like I said, it's just overall, I think that was a good thing because hey, again, black girls don't really get that much representation in Hollywood and stuff. And so it's nice to actually see that. And I think it's going to it's going to be one of those movies that I think is going to appeal to the kids, and particularly a lot of little black girls. They're going to really love this movie. Um, like I said, 8 out of 10. It's going to be interesting to see what this movie does this weekend, especially Black Panther fever still riding the high. Hopefully, it might get that residuals from it because they're both Disney properties. So hey, it could get that Disney bump. We'll see and such. I know right now, in terms of critiquing and stuff, and it goes back to what I said about the critique. I think it's one of those things where there is some legit things that you can say that is negative about the movie in a very critical way and not in some snarky way. And I think there's also things that I've seen people that have said negative things about the movie that's just like, maybe it's a situation where the movie just didn't appeal to you, but that doesn't mean that the movie is bad. Like, even if the movie didn't appeal to me, I can't in my heart of hearts say that the movie is bad because of that, you know. And I think that speaks to the state of criticism and just how people think, period, because everybody still thinks in the sense of a movie is either good or bad. There can never be any, oh, it was okay, oh, it was fine, it didn't appeal to me, but it was still a good movie and stuff. And I think that's where Wrinkle in Time is. It's in that cosm of just being, it's a good movie, you know, but some adults might sit there and think, oh, didn't appeal to me, fuck this movie, I don't care, you know, negative. And there might be some people who be like, hey, you know what, again, like me, where it's like, hey, I like the movie, has its issues, but overall, good product. And that's basically what A Wrinkle in Time is. It's a good product, has its flaws. No movie's perfect, but the overall of what they were trying to do, the themes and just the characters, period, it works. You know, so yeah, that's it for the review. Again, like I said, if you're watching this, subscribe to our channel. And yeah, be on the lookout for our next review. It's gonna probably be on Tomb Raider. So anyways, catch you guys later. Peace out.